where the story really is Bill Belichick, and maybe a story that's been there for many years, but maybe hidden behind a quarterback who won for them. Were you, first of all, surprised that Belichick left?
I was not surprised. I think the betting that I was asked this question, of course, several times, you can imagine, and I said by a margin of about 52 to 48%, I'll say he's going somewhere. He won't be back. And there was a question, of course, but because one reason being we really didn't know what Bob Kraft was thinking. Okay, I mean, and he's the source, and we needed to know whether he was willing to cut the cord, and it's definitely well, now we know. So I'm not surprised.
What did you make of the press conference, Bob? Because they really tried to polish it up as these are two great friends, and we're always going to be friends, and yet, darn well behind the scenes, one guy was saying, well, you know what, we're not really happy with the way the team's going, and the other guy's saying, well, I still want to coach. Well,
he does still want to coach. I think there's no question about that. We all the media and are unanimous that his goal in life right now is to catch Don Shula and surpass Don Shula. He's come this close. He doesn't want to fall short. He needs 15, I believe, to get it done. And it wasn't going to happen in New England for certainly not in 2 years if he's lucky, maybe 3. So that's number one. But it was a show. The press conference, it was a show, and we kind of knew that, and it's so that's I'm sorry I'm babbling because it's just such an unusual circumstance.
It was so obvious too when they come up with a head coach within 48 hours.
Oh yeah, well, he was the heir apparent that most people thought, Gerard Mayo, and absolutely, and of course they didn't have to go through the Rooney Rule process because they had already headed that off with Mayo's last contract, right. and that that saved them the dog and pony show of bringing in some ceremonial man of color to interview for a job which has already been given away to another man of color. Then they have to go through that. And so that was one thing.
Let me ask, legacy-wise, do you think passing Shula matters?
Not really. He's got more Super Bowls. He's got more Super Bowls. His reputation as a brilliant coach is secure. What isn't? What? So that's a great question. I haven't everybody asked that question. Really, that's good. No, it's not going to matter. And he's outdoing his Shula by the Super Bowls, and that's the big measuring stick ultimately, right? So, and by the way, he may get it and then wind up having to send a congratulatory telegram to Andy Reid someday. So, seriously, so that's the other thing. He may not be, even if he gets it, he may not hold on to it.
The fascination for me about Belichick was, particularly in the last, since Brady left, most of the press was not very positive. Most of the coverage was not very positive. And yet the moment he left, he was back on a pedestal.
Well, sure, because of you have to acknowledge the 6 Super Bowls of the 9 appearances. You have to do that. And the thing is that the Brady success of another one without him as became part of the dialogue, and I'm sure it frosted him. I'm sure we strongly believe that he was ready to cut the cord as far back as 4 or 5 years ago when he got Garoppolo, and he was grooming Garoppolo, and he was virtually outvoted 2-1 by Kraft and Brady himself, and he had to get rid of Garoppolo, and you note that he sent him to a good home, and with a organization that he likes and respects, not to some football Siberia, and That was when he sent him to San Francisco.
And didn't send him for very much, as I recall.
No, 50 cents on the dollar, and or maybe 75, no question. And that was he didn't want to make that deal. There's never been a doubt in my mind that that he thought that he was ready to move on from Brady even then. And then for Brady to one up him by winning one at Tampa Bay was probably very galling. But as far as the mutual show of affection and admiration and all that thing, I mean, let's face it, Kraft owes Belichick a great deal. I mean, in every way. Financially, I mean, the value of this franchise and the difference between what it was when he bought it and what it is now, and which he has to completely directly attributable to what Belichick has done here. He owes him, and there's no question.
Let's talk about Belichick, the coach, versus Belichick, the general manager.
Yes.
My sense is that people are not up for the fact that Belichick, as a general manager, has been great, at least the last 4 or 5 years. Do you agree?
Totally. There's unanimity of opinion, media opinion, that the general manager screwed up the coach, and we went through this once before. People don't 25 years ago with Patino. His general managing did him in, and Belichick lost it. There's no question that the general managing is that too much power was concentrated. Somebody had to overrule him on a couple of decisions. He's drafting of wide receivers, Exhibit A. But
right.
No question. That's the story here, is that he can still coach. I don't think there's any question. But the personnel that he now has wasn't good enough, and that's that.
So he's talking to a bunch of other teams. Do you think he is insisting that he be the GM?
Well, that's the question is, I personally, and I think I'm many people would agree with me, are very skeptical. I can't imagine him going somewhere else and listening. I wrote this, by the way. I said to some 55-year-old whippersnapper general manager, telling him that, no. And seriously, and I can't imagine him going somewhere and acceding and yielding to someone else's decision about who to draft, who to cut, blah, blah, blah. I find this hard to believe. And yet, I don't know how this is going to shake out. We'll see where he does go. But I find this hard to believe that he can accommodate himself to a new world in which he would not have the final say.
So if he wants to be a general manager, will anybody offer him that position?
Well, I don't know. Maybe this is the great question. I don't know how if an owner is naive enough to think that he's going to be easy to handle, if somebody else is supposed over him, that's ridiculous. But I don't know. The owners, they were strange breed sometimes too. That's we don't know. These are unanswerable. These are questions that are fascinating all of us here, because we want to see how this unfolds naturally out of great academic curiosity. I think what I just said to you would be strongly confirmed by everybody, that we can't imagine him going somewhere and then not having the power. And yet, does someone want to, if they take a look at why he's available, which is the fact that he wasn't capable any longer, or he wasn't doing a good job of judging incoming personnel anymore, why would you hire him? So I don't know how this is going to shake out.
Well, we already know he's interviewed at Atlanta, because the Falcons came out with a release last night during the game, which shocked me, by the way. I mean, aren't we supposed to be focusing on the game rather than news of the day? And both the Chargers said that they announced that they had talked to Harbaugh, and the Falcons had said they talked to Belichick. But the other story that started to percolate, of course, was that, hey, Jerry Jones has got to do something in Dallas. Can you see Jerry Jones and Bill Belichick ever working together? I mean, on the outside, it's a love-in because they're football guys. But when the doors close, can you see them having the same philosophy ever?
There couldn't be a worse fit, in my opinion, than he and Jerry Jones, because Jerry Jones is the polar opposite of the hands-off owner. He is a hands-on everything owner who thinks he's a football expert, who was his own de facto general manager. And this is exactly the scenario that I can't imagine Bill Belichick welcoming or in one in which he could flourish. This doesn't make any sense at all to me. But it's the jokes. I guess I found out that they were literally joking in the press box during the Cowboys game at halftime that Bob Kraft, that Jerry Jones is saying, anybody got Belichick's number? And of course, on the one sense, that does make sense. He would be an interesting coach, but on the field, if left alone. But Jerry Jones is going to leave anybody alone.